The Mets avoid a sweep in Beantown, and now it's a rematch of the National League Championship Series on Friday at Citi Field. Mets, Dodgers, buckle up, enjoy the ride. They got a Swaggy V bobblehead. They got jersey giveaways. A good weekend to be at the ballpark, even though the weather's crappy. And it's our weekly guest here, right here on Mets Daily. Subscribe, smash that thumbs up on YouTube. It helps the channel. Comment below, of course. Follow me at Jake Brown Radio. It is a first-time caller, long-time listener here on the show, as that's the name of her show, and that is Laura Albanese, who now is the Mets beat writer at Newsday. Formerly, she did it all, and now you're just on the Mets. So you went from like agita in different dimensions to agita in one dimension. Laura, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Full of agita, as you mentioned. Now, I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm here in Boston, about to fly out. The Mets had an interesting series against the Red Sox, and it was certainly a great introduction to the beat.
Before the season, my prediction, and maybe there was some homerism in it, was Mets Red Sox World Series. So I thought what the Red Sox did with the rotation in the offseason, that they were going to be remarkable. I still think they can be remarkable. They've been inconsistent. The Mets had a Jets-like offseason. The Jets won the Super Bowl in the offseason last year or the year before. The Mets won April. The Mets were the kings of April, and now they've come down to earth a little bit in May. Your introduction to the beat here is during a time where the only subject in the news seems to be Juan Soto. Are you already sick of his name? Have you been sick of it? What do you think of this Soto discourse, from effort to the batting average to his family picking the Mets and not the Yankees to the fake private jets everyone's talking about? It's nonstop, Laura.
It is relentless, and frankly, like a lot of the stuff that's coming from people who are not around Juan Soto, who I don't necessarily see in the clubhouse, which is always kind of like something that bugs me a little bit, because you're projecting all these things on this 26-year-old kid who has the onus of a $765 million contract. And Carlos Mendoza said it over and over and over again. He is human. I know a lot of the things that he does or has done in his career are superhuman, but this is essentially just a kid who's living up to this. And it feels a little bit overblown. I understand the fact that Mets fans are frustrated. I think he's hitting 244 or thereabouts right now. That's not what you signed up for. His OPS is still really high. He still gets on base. What we're seeing, I think, is kind of like possibly the worst of New York sports media. Just give the kid a little bit of time. This narrative that he is unhappy or that the clubhouse does not like him is overblown. For my 2 cents, I think Juan Soto is only unhappy because he's not hitting and he's not producing. And this is a player that was born to hit and produce and to help teams. And any player who gets into this situation and isn't producing is going to go through that little bit of moment of just like, oh, okay, well, I'm not particularly happy with myself. I don't think it's necessarily a reflection of whether or not he's happy with the team.
Yeah, I think people forget he's 26, and there's a brain inside. I think people assume there's $100 bills inside of his brain and not like emotions, and there is. I mean, think of us at 20. At 26, I think we were all wildly immature in some way. We all were not grown up yet, and that's Juan Soto, who's been handed the keys to the castle, and it takes time. And this is something normal for him in the beginning of seasons. Look, in San Diego, he had a slow start too. Like, I think people assume he's going to get out of the gates, hit 350, hit 10 homers in April. And it happens. I mean, look at Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso had an incredible April. He's looked like 2024 Pete Alonso in May. It's just the waves of a baseball season. Obviously, he's highlighted a little bit more. Do you expect him? I expect him to turn it around. Do you expect a turnaround here for Soto?
I do expect him to turn it around, specifically because I watched him so much when I was covering the Yankees pretty heavily last year. And this is not a player that really kind of gives way to pressure as much as a lot of other players do. I think he kind of has a psychology for it. I think somebody else in this situation, with the booing and with all the media scrutiny and with basically the fan fiction that's been going around him, would possibly cede a little bit. But he has such an intellectual approach to hitting He has so much kind of like plate presence and his ability to master the strike zone. These are things that don't go away. So I do feel like he will bust out of this. This player is far too talented to be this caliber of player that he is right now. And again, he's not terrible. People keep talking as if he's like an absolute like a horrible thing that's part of the lineup. No, he's actually producing. Sure, okay, he didn't look great in his first three at bats, but he still hit that long sacrifice fly yesterday that would have been either a double or a home run, especially with the exit velocity. The winds were insane. It knocked it all the way down. He is still getting quality at bats. He is still understanding the strike zone. He is still getting on base. He's trying to steal more bases. He understands that maybe he's not hitting as much, so he tries to take the extra base. I do think that some of the comments about him not hustling out of the box are warranted. And that's probably something that he's going to be cognizant of from here on out. But he is trying to make it up in other ways.
Yeah, last night was wild. Two at bats, 7 pitches, didn't look at one, and the Twitter police was out in full force. And luckily he then almost hit that grand slam. But yeah, that's the one thing, and I talked about this week on the show is hustle. To me, like New Yorkers, we read through BS. Like you don't need to tell the media, you don't need to tell you guys, hey, no, I thought I was hustling. We saw it. I get there's different situations. You thought it was a homer. The night before was like a check swing. He wasn't sure. Nonetheless, this is a game of baseball. You're blessed to play it and make more in an at-bat than a lot of us and a lot of writers make in a game, like in 2 at-bats. It's an incredible job you have, and taking advantage of it, not running the first, something we learned in Little League, is something that does make me mad. I think everything else is going to be just fine. Laura Albanese on Mets Daily. Make sure you check out her podcast, first-time listener, long-time caller, of course, coming back from the days of Mike and the Mad Dog, how I got into radio and the business. You could follow her on Twitter at Albanese Laura, and she is the Mets beat writer for Newsday, which is what, like $1 a month or $1 a week or something?
Yeah, it is literally just a couple pennies. So if you want to subscribe, please do.
A couple of pennies. We could afford that. It's one hundredth of a coffee. Coffee now is like $8 in New York. It's getting out of control.
Ridiculous.
I hate to sound like my dad, but everything is just so damn expensive now in today's world. And
this Courtyard Marriott is costing $300 a night. A Courtyard.
A Courtyard Marriott.
Right. It's not even in Boston proper.
Yeah, that I was looking at ball because I almost went this week. I saw some of the hotel prices. I'm like, it's a Monday night. How is a hotel $250? That's the world we live in, and they'll leave the lights on for you. Only at the Red Roof Inn, not at the Courtyard Marriott. The Mets have the day off, thankfully. You have the day off. You'll be traveling back to New York for Mets, Dodgers, and one guy who, seems like he's going to make the trip and maybe make his next start is Tyler McGill after last night. Now, his problem has been going deep into games. He struggled in the 5th inning, but he looked pretty lights out for the first 4. What do you see happening here with Paul Blackburn pitching a one-hitter, seven innings, 1 run, 7 innings, 1 hit in Syracuse? My brain, folks, is not working. The Knicks have let me down. I popped a NyQuil. My brain is not functioning this morning, so any slip-ups I blame on the New York Knicks and Tyrese Halliburton. F. Tyrese. Anyways, what do you think about Tyler McGill with Blackburn coming back? Does McGill stick? Does Blackburn take his spot? Does he move to the bullpen? What do you envision happening?
It is such an enigma because the Mets don't need a 6th starter until a little bit into June, and then you have Frankie Montas coming back eventually. I'm assuming Sean Manaea coming back as well. Tyler McGill has always been that guy who has the stuff. He has the ability to pitch extremely well. He has the build, but it was putting it all together. I think yesterday that we saw, there's this kind of like this, again, we're talking about narratives, this narrative, oh, he can only pitch in April, and then suddenly he turns into a pumpkin in May. And I think part of it was that he was just trusting his fastball. And it feels so simple, like, oh, just trust your fastball. But McGill did that yesterday. And so I do believe with him, there's a little bit of a psychological element to it in terms of his pitching. If he can continue doing that, if he can continue working with Jeremy Hefner, again, trusting his fastball, the changeup, which he does not use a lot, which he introduced, is fantastic. It's a really great changeup. Batters can't seem to do much with it. He just needs to trust it more. I think that could really be a weapon if he continues to use it. With Paul Blackburn coming back, it's interesting. Asked Carlos Mendoza about it, and they're fairly non-committal, even to the point where they were saying that, well, maybe Blackburn will get another rehab start, which he so with rehab starts, you once you start one, you have 30 days where you're activated. So he had originally started his rehab on April 19th, and then so his time would have expired, except he got like a really fortuitous, I guess, stomach bug in the beginning of May. So his clock doesn't start until May 2nd. So they do have a little bit of time where they can kind of like stash him essentially in the minor leagues before they bring him back in early June. So that could be an option. They could have him in another rehab start. He's built up to 87 pitches. He could build up a little bit more, and then they can use him in long relief for a while and then go to the 6-man rotation. I think the bigger question is what happens when Frankie Montas comes back.
Yeah, it's a tough predicament because Paul Blackburn is not Sandy Koufax. Like, he is really a six starter. He is a fringe roster guy, but he showed a little bit of something before he got hurt when they traded for him last year. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He's in between. He also had that weird thing where he played his old team and he got traded from the AL West and then was playing the AL West, but he was in the NL East. It made no sense. It was bizarre, and so is the whole entire MLB schedule is bizarre with the new scheduling. I hate the less divisional games. That's a story for another day, but it's going to be interesting to see because I don't know if Blackburn's really a reliever or a long reliever. I can see McGill being effective, Laura, with his pitch arsenal that he has as a one-inning guy, because we see him have dominant innings. It's just a matter of length, and he kind of gets gassed getting later in games. So I think he could be a good 6-inning guy for this team if they need him. The way starters are going 5, he could be that 6-inning guy. Reed Garrett the 7th. And then the 8th, I mean, Huascar Brazoban has been a revelation for this team. This is a guy the Mets got last year, and he had one of the best ERAs in baseball out of the bullpen. And then he came to the Mets, he was so, and it's almost like we forgot he existed coming into this season. We were like, is he going to make the team? He's got a .9 ERA, and outside of Diaz closing games, Laura, he has been the most reliable Met out of that bullpen, to me, by a mile.
By far. I mean, I think I was asked, like, who is the reliever that you feel is underrated? And this was weeks ago, and I was like, it's definitely Huascar Brazoban. And you're looking at a guy, I think it's his age 35 season right now, and he is pitching at the peak of his career. Talked about it a little bit yesterday, and one of the things he mentioned, in addition to just kind of like just trusting his stuff, which is very, very good stuff, is he's prepared now. Before games, he is told what role he's going to play. He is kind of like, he's given an idea of the batters he's going to face. And because of that, and in addition to his maturity and in addition to his just straight stuff, he's able to kind of like curate his arsenal a little bit more, curate his approach. And I think with some pitchers, and I've had like really long conversations with pitchers about this. Some pitchers, they get all this information and it's too much. It's overloaded. It's just kind of like, I just want to get this guy out. But some pitchers really, really benefit from information. They benefit from data, and I believe Brazoban is one of them. So I think that's a credit to him. I think it's a credit to Jeremy Hefner. I think it's a credit to the other guys in the bullpen, and we're just kind of seeing the evolution of a player who is able to take not only his skill, but age is looked at in so many ways as a bad thing when it comes to athletes. But essentially, he's using his age and his experience. And using it to his benefit, and we're finally seeing the fruits of that.
Yeah, not often does a guy's career, a big league career, start at age 32. It's a pretty remarkable story later in his career getting it going. And this bullpen needs him because without A.J. Minter for the season, without Danny Young for the season, have you heard anything about Brooks Raley? I assume he's throwing now, but he hasn't got any game action. My expectation was late June for him. Have you heard anything about Raley?
I think that's basically where it's at. I haven't heard much about Raley in the last, I would say, a couple days. I've been on the beat for 4 days now, but I haven't heard about Raley much. But I think that he is on track. There have been no setbacks, so you've got that going for you, and you've also got the trade deadline. And with David Stearns, Stearns is one of those guys, especially when it comes to bullpen construction and moves that you make at the deadline, that trust until proven otherwise. He has continuously, back with the Brewers and now with the Mets, gotten that sort of like diamond in the rough piece that's been able to kind of key the team to a little bit more success. And so, frankly, just tread water till the deadline, and I think the bullpen will be okay. That being said, they do need more length from their starters. It's been an ongoing concern, and as great as any bullpen is, it always wears out towards the end. We did see last year guys just getting gassed by the time it got to October. You even saw starters getting gassed by the time it got to October. That's something that the Mets do have to be cognizant of, because it does feel like, they would have had a better shot against the Dodgers in the NLCS if their pitching hadn't been quite so tired.
Yeah, David Stearns dipped his foot into, maybe the smaller side of the pool, and now this year he's got to go into the deep end. He got Braziban, who struggled. He got Blackburn, who struggled. He got Winker, who was big for this team, and he got Ryan Stannic. So Stannic was the big bullpen piece that he got last year. This year, he's got to go get an elite reliever. And Stannic, I think some Mets fans and maybe the Mets have lost a little bit of faith in, because in big spots he has struggled this year, and that's why Braziban has been so clutch. But I expect them to be very active at the deadline. I mean, this is a massive deadline. Stearns has been essentially hit a home run on 90% of his moves. He's knocked it out of the park. But this is a deadline where he will really be judged, because you have World Series expectations. Last year, I think it was, all right, this is a fun ride. We're going to do this. But this year, your expectation is try and win a World Series. Last year was get in the playoffs and see what happens. But it's going to be a very interesting second half. And, to get to the World Series, they got to get past the team they play tomorrow, and that's the Dodgers coming. This series, Mother Nature, I'm very disappointed in, Laura, because this is
right?
Memorial Day weekend. I should be at Summer Club on Monday at the pool in Long Island City. I should be at Mets Dodgers all weekend. I should be having a blast, and instead it's like going to be 60s and rainy in the 50s. It was brick cold for you in Boston all week. What is going on?
I had to buy clothes. I came here and I was like, I do not have warm enough clothes for this.
You got to expense that. I hope you guys went to like Marshalls or TJ Maxx or
what. Me and Target are best friends at this point.
Target, yeah. I'm a big thrift shopper too. Buffalo and Exchange. I had a crazy week when I was in Astoria. I was in Astoria 10 years. I lived there. I had a 3-day stretch where Buffalo Exchange closed. Someone died, I forget, and then my brother's dog died, and the brother's dog was sad. It was very sad. It was brushing its teeth. They were getting the teeth cleaned, dead from anesthesia. Yeah, unbelievable. Oh. It's kind of sad on me, maybe. I was as distraught when Buffalo Exchange and Astoria closed as when my brother's dog died.
I got so many clothes from that Buffalo Exchange. So many. How dare they?
50% of my wardrobe is Buffalo Exchange. The other 50% is Mets promotional giveaways. Maybe some that don't fit me anymore. But, my stepbrother's shirt, Buffalo Exchange, just so many great finds. And they said, we have to focus on our Williamsburg store. I was like, how about you focus on Queens? How about you not worry about the Williamsburg store?
Forget the Williamsburg store. I can't be wearing my big, sexy, long-sleeve T-shirt to the gym every single time.
I think I got one there, too, actually. I remember they sold that. At that maybe you bought the last one. Giveaway. Yeah, I remember this. Well, there were a lot of giveaways that would be sold at Buffalo Exchange, like jerseys, T-shirts. It was remarkable. Greatest store on the lot.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. and peace to Buffalo Exchange Astoria. Next to Cookie Crumble too, very good cookies. So I get a nice coffee, I get a cookie, and then I get a ridiculous looking $17 shirt at Buffalo Exchange. Great memories. Anyways, Laura Albany's joining us for a few more minutes here. Mets Dodgers. I think I was talking about Mets Dodgers. I just got distracted by
Buffalo Exchange, as we all do.
Well, let's go from Buffalo to Los Angeles back to Queens for this weekend. And this is going to be fun, Laura. I think you're going to get a little sneak peek of what we could see once again in October. And, the Dodgers, who I call the Avengers, have not been the Avengers so far this season. They played pedestrian, which is still first place baseball, but they haven't been like a team that's like 35-7, like I think a lot of people expected. What are you looking forward to seeing this weekend? It's only a 3-game set, very anticlimactic Mets-White Sox game on Memorial Day. I don't know how that ended up happening, but it is Sean and I a camo jersey giveaway, even though he's hurt. I always look for the giveaways. What do you expect to see Mets-Dodgers this weekend?
This is going to be a very, very interesting series. One of the things, it's so interesting because you looked at last year's Dodgers and you're like, okay, they're unstoppable, but they get hurt a lot. And they won the World Series. And this year, it feels like they're unstoppable, but they get hurt a lot. Who knows? They might still win the World Series. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, one of the biggest things that I want to see is just kind of like what the Mets are going to do with their offense in terms of if they can sustain a little bit more of this breakout. Mendoza said yesterday that this kind of shift that he did in the lineup, which is moving Soto to third and Alonso to fourth, could be something that he continues. I want to see if that works out or not. I feel like it's a good idea. I think Starling Marte in the number 2 hole, that's probably not a forever thing.
How about a never thing? How about not a forever? How about a never?
I will give Marte some credit here because I do feel like as a veteran who is used to playing every day, it's been very difficult kind of to come off the bench as much as he has. So obviously maybe put Nimmo in the 2 hole. I
How
think
about
that could be
Acuna?
interesting.
How about Acuna in the two?
Acuna in the 2 hole, just somebody who gets on base. Acuna is fun because like even when you think it's an out, somehow he's safe.
Hmm.
It's kind of like it's a little bit of just like a younger version of Jose Iglesias, who I feel like last year had like 7,000 infield hits for some reason. So somebody like that. So I like this kind of like I called it the Soto shuffle. I like the Soto shuffle in the lineup, and I want to see how that plays against the Dodgers. They need to get this offense going. I'm not worried about Alonso. I am not worried about Lindor. I'm only worried about Soto in so much as how long is this slump going to last? Because I do feel like essentially he has the talent, and baseball is a game of average, and he will average out to the player that he is. Um, but that and the issue with runners in scoring position
Mm.
is fascinating to me because what? I mean, like just literally what? There I looked it up yesterday going into the game, and I think they're hitting something like 214 with runners in scoring position. And there are only 3 teams under them, and they're the Pirates, the White Sox, or three. I'm sorry, they're so no, there's more than 25 teams, but they're pretty low, and there are 3 teams under them. I can't do math. Don't judge me. So it was the Pirates, the White Sox, and the Orioles that were worse than them. And I'm like, that's pretty bad for a team that has a pretty good offense. So this is a conundrum. David Stern says he doesn't look at batting average when it comes to runs in scoring position because it can be so kind of like random, which I understand and I appreciate and I get. That's just how statistics work. But at the end of the day, you still got to get a hit when there's a runner on second or third. So what's going on? Why are they taking the quality of the at bats has just not been good. We saw it yesterday, even though they were 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. You saw like a lot of first pitch swinging. You saw a lot of guys that just kind of like swinging out of their shoes. So some of it could be just like guys pressing a little bit too much. So that is something that they have to work on, and that is what I want to see this weekend because the Dodgers are obviously not going to be an easy out.
I blame Tyrese Halliburton for the Mets running and scoring position issues, for you not being able to do math this morning, for me being a little stuffed,
This
congested.
morning, I haven't been able to do math since I was born.
Well, my mom's a math teacher, so I've been blessed with mental math. But then when it got to like matrix and matrices in college with Professor Yi Ren
Oh,
Wu,
what?
I had to take the withdrawal. I took a W each of my first 4 semesters. A George
No, thank
W.
you.
Bush. I took the W 4 times because matrix and matrices. I can't even say that. I mean,
Matrix now.
tell Mike Tyson to try to say matrix and matrices. Like
Matrix now.
that'd be a problem. Anyways, yeah, I mean it's alarming. Never Marte in the two. Like Acuna two would be great. I like the Soto shuffle idea. It worked for a day, and maybe get a couple guys on. Maybe he does get more pitches to hit. He's gotten. He like leads the league in the least amount of pitches to hit, except last night, which he had everyone down the middle. He just wasn't seeing Crochet pretty well, but maybe that gives him more pitches to hit if you got 2 guys on and then he comes up and then you got your big boppers coming up in the middle. And yeah, Brandon Nimmo's got to be more consistent. Brandon and Mark Vientos, like Brett Beatty's taking his job right now, and well deserved. Brett Beatty deserves to play third base. Mark Vientos, if he doesn't start picking it up, the Mets have options. Not to mention Ronnie Mauricio, 7 for 11 with 2 homers the last couple of days. Ronnie Mauricio is slowly working his way, Laura. I know David Stern says they're going to wait on him a little bit, but if the lineup continues to be stagnant, you got a guy like Mauricio, you got a guy like Drew Gilbert. There are names come summertime in Queens that could be coming at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Mauricio is I don't know if I necessarily trust his glove at third base, and that's kind of where you need him. I think he's more natural, either outfield, second base, shortstop. Those are his better kind of like spots. And you're not shoving Lindor out of his spot. You're not shoving Acuna out of his spot right now. So Mauricio is going to be.
Well, he could DH over Marte at this point.
He could DH over Marte, but could he DH over Vientos? Because now Beatty has made the issue of that is a really, really good defensive third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some barehanded picks. I've seen some great throws. I think we all have, where you're like, oh, okay, that's Robin Ventura-esque is what we're seeing right now, which is a huge compliment, obviously, and too small of a sample size. But you almost forgot how good this guy was as an infielder. I mean,
Well, I
it
think
makes
because he
all the
lost a
difference.
lot of his confidence, Laura, from what he did at the plate and his struggles. Because he did make some errors, remember, over these years with the Mets. We didn't see this Robin Ventura-esque Brett Beatty before.
Absolutely. And you see this and you're like, okay, I understand a little bit more now why people were so extremely high on this guy. And it, he, when you talk to him, he's like, no, no, I always have my confidence. I always have my confidence. And I feel like as a younger guy, you kind of have to say that, but we are seeing a different version of this player. And part of it almost had to do with the fact that when he was sent down this latest time, Mendoza basically told him, hey, this is not forever. You are a big league player and you deserve to be here. And then he started just like whacking the heck out of the ball in the minor leagues and came back up here. And though, like we go back to batting average, which whatever, what type of stat is that? But we go back, his batting average hasn't been particularly high since he came back. He is producing. I think he has 10 RBI since he got recalled in 13 games. Again, his ability to hit with runners in scoring position by not trying to do too much. He's not, trying to hit like a ball 400 feet. He is just putting, the barrel of the bat to the ball, making contact and making significant contact. His bat speed is really, really good. So you pair that with a low chase rate and you pair that with, kind of like an okay ability to square up, it's going to fall in. And then you have this defense at third base. I mean, like, I feel like, the Brett Beatty that we're seeing now is the Brett Beatty that we were kind of promised early on.
His message to Mendy was pretty clear last night. I can hit lefties, bro. Play me
Yeah.
against lefties. It was, I believe it was his first start against lefties, and he had 2 hits and he had that big 2-run single. I don't know how that wasn't a rare Acuna mistake on the base pass. I don't know how that wasn't a 2-run double, but Fenway Park left field, everything's a single at this point. But yeah, he's been clutch, and it's weird. His average was so low at the start, so he had to climb out of a huge hole, but you almost don't even look at that because his timely hits, the defense has been great, and what a story it's been. A guy that came, was basically dead, hits the homer against Will. You're like, he's alive. Okay, he's dead again. He's AAA. Now he's alive again. He's back, and he's playing hard because he knows Jesse Winker and Jose Siri are coming at some point in June, mid to late
At
June.
some point, although, Jesse Winker, and I don't think this was actually reported out, Jesse Winker hasn't even started doing anything yet. So it might be a while.
Might be July. I mean, the 8 weeks put him at end of June, so maybe it's early July. What do we expect, Siri? Same thing, late June, early July, probably.
I mean, I was surprised at how much he was doing, just because like every time you hear like broken tibia, which a fracture is just a break, you're like, oh, that's gonna be a bit. But he's hitting off the high velo machine. He's throwing at 120 feet. He's sprinting. So I think we're probably gonna see Siri potentially, yeah, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I don't have we had Manaea. I mean, Manaea Matas are thrown, but they haven't had rehab starts yet. I thought it was going to be late May, early June, but that's looking like it's going to be pushed back more to maybe late June for those guys.
So it looks like Montas is probably a little bit sooner. He's throwing live BP. So, the next step is going to be a rehab start. I don't know how many rehab starts they want. Again, it's going to be the issue of how does he do in these rehab starts? Do the Mets need him in the rotation necessarily? Can they afford to kind of give him a little bit more time to acclimate, which could go to their benefit? Because, I mean, you want as healthy of a Montas and as dominant as a Montas as you can have. But at the end of the day, he's not a frontline starter. So they can afford, if the rest of the rotation is producing, to kind of have that time. It's a luxury. As for Manaea, he threw his first like kind of up and down. So I guess 2 simulated innings a couple days ago. I think actually it was yesterday, Wednesday. So that's going to progress to live BP eventually. So that looks more like a late June, early July. And having Manaea back would be really, really instrumental to this rotation.
I mean, he's like their ace, and he is the Samoan Prince or whatever the great Samoan Prince, whatever they call him.
What do they call him? The tribal
tribal chief or something.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Tribal chief, and
I have to get off Mets Twitter before it rots my brain.
Yeah, I'm there. My brain is full rot, and but it's a different world, but it's fun. And Laura Albanese does a great job covering the Mets for Newsday. How has the first week been before we let you go? You've been on the beat before, but what's it been like first week? And now I guess your first homestand coming up here.
Yeah, I honestly, it doesn't feel a lot different because I've been covering this team and the Yankees for like 10 years. So now it's just this team. I do feel like I cursed them a little bit. So my apologies to the Mets fans out there, because like the minute I got on the beat, suddenly we have like Carl Ravitch being like, Juan Soto, does he have a private, like like all this stuff going on? But other than that, it's a wild ride. I love baseball. I did not expect to have this job. I was asked to do it, and now it's the rest of my life. So here's to the 26 men I'll be following around the country for the rest of the year.
What a life. What a life. And what a team to cover. I mean, there's always a story. And, if there's ever a season to be ingrained in, you're looking at the 2025 World Series champion New York Mets. That's what I still believe. F the haters. Soto's going to turn around. This team's going to get healthy. They're going to make the trades. So you're going to buckle up, enjoy the ride, and you'll be there every step of the way. You can follow her on Twitter at Albany's Laura. Sign up for Newsday now, and you can check out her podcast as well. First-time listener, long-time caller. Laura, enjoy the series. Oh, wait, I have to pick on you for something. Your statement, I do a lot of food reviews at the ballparks. My fried Oreo ones at Citi Field actually kind of blew up this past week. You may have not had the fried Oreos yet, a must-have in the ballpark. Not. And I think it's only like $9 too. You said that Yankee Stadium food was – did you say it was better than Citi Field, or you said the new Yankee Stadium food was better this year?
The new Yankee Stadium food, because Yankee Stadium food has been absolute trash for years. However, this year, the Yankee Stadium, I feel like they realized with the USA Today poll that kept putting Citi Field like higher than Yankee Stadium, they started getting like a little bit annoyed about it, and they really, really, really upped their game. And I gotta say, deepest condolences. The Mets food is the quality hasn't been great this year. And everyone always asks, can you expense it? Can you expense? I'm like, I pay out of my own pocket for this nonsense.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm going to be mad when I get a hero or gyro, whatever you want to call it. It's like 3 pieces of like dry chicken on it. And I will tweet about it. So, hey, Citi Field, come on. You got to deliver.
I'm buddies with some of those chefs and the Aramark people, so I have a word in their ear. They know I'm like the food connoisseur of that ballpark. So the fried Oreos are must-have. The chili cheese fries were not great, I will say. They added that this year. But I agree in some ways. It's the people that prepare it, because Mel's Butcher Box, she made me this new steak fries they have this year, steak sandwich, and it was fresh. It needs to be prepared better. I don't know if the people are cooking it right. It comes out cold and dry, and yeah.
Because the gyro was great last year, and then this year I got it, and it was a crime against humanity. And I'm like, well, I guess it depends on the person. I will say that the Chef Kwame curry chicken patty thing is fantastic. And that is a must-have. And I feel like the people who put that together really put a lot of work into it, because there's a slaw on it, and they only put it on the patty when they serve it to you, so it doesn't get soggy. So there you go.
That's the key, the soggy stuff, because people were commenting on my steak fries like, it never comes out like this. And maybe that's the issue than the food itself. It needs to be prepared better. So you do think Citi Field overall is better, but the new rollout this year of new food was better. I did do the tiramisu cup over the weekend, which was good. Had a pop of lactate before. Yeah. But that was good.
Lactate baby.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so new food. All right, that's fair.
Yes.
All right, I won't hate on you for that. You're not wrong. The new rollout probably better at Yankee Stadium. Laura Albany's Newsday Mets beat writer. Enjoy the Mets-Dodgers weekend series. Thank you so much for coming on Mets Daily, and we'll talk to you again later in the year. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Smash that thumbs up, everyone. Subscribe to Mets Daily. Thank you so much for watching. She's got a flight to catch. We'll see you at Citi Field this weekend. Peace.